So it's 5:30 and I'm calling this meeting to order. First, a reminder that meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the Select Board so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are, at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair or to the Select Board as a whole and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones, and a reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. All right, are there adjustments to the order of the agenda?
I have none.
Okay,
I'll explain in my town manager's report.
so we don't need to have any.
No, we do not.
Okay, good, because we don't like to do that.
No.
All right, so the next, does anybody else have any
I do not.
adjustments to the order of the agenda? Fletcher?
No, thank you.
Okay. Next is Select Board comments and remarks. Does anybody on Select Board have anything they would like to say?
Yeah, I have a few things.
Okay, Nate, go ahead.
The first one is going to be a statement from the Equity Inclusion Advisory Committee. We just forgot to add it to the agenda. Our apologies. It was written by Jill Hinckley. So, the Equity and Inclusion Advisory Committee of the Town of Putney, Vermont stands united in the support of Native American Heritage Month. This annual observance celebrated the beginning of November 1st and observed through the month provides us with the opportunity to recognize, honor, and celebrate the rich cultural traditions, history, and contributions of Native Americans to our nation and our community. Here in southern Vermont, we acknowledge that we are occupying unceded land of the indigenous Abenaki people. Native American Heritage Month, observed in November, is a time to recognize and celebrate the rich histories, cultures, and contributions of Native Americans in the United States. It was officially recognized in 1990 when a joint resolution was passed in Congress and signed into law by the late President George H.W. Bush, building on earlier efforts to promote awareness of Native American issues and heritage. As of 2021, there are 574 federally recognized tribes, but many more are still seeking recognition. Throughout the month, the various events, programs, and educational activities take place to honor Indigenous people and highlight their histories, languages, traditions, and contemporary experiences. It is also a time to reflect on challenges faced by the Native communities and to promote understanding and respect for their cultures. We invite community members to take advantage of this observance by checking out some of our local organizations and resources. And so I'll share this with Rachel so she can get it on our minutes, but there are a few different local organizations, such as the Wantastigat Cultural Center in Brattleboro and the Vermont Abenaki Artists Association in Burlington that she provided links to.
Nice, thank you.
And then the other one, if I can just continue, is that all right? Is that I will not be running for re-election because I will be moving in March of this upcoming year. So anyone that's considering running, I urge you to. There will be a 2-year seat available.
Okay, thank you. That's probably good news for you, bad news for us.
Bad news for me too. I love Putney.
Come back and visit. You can come and zoom in on any of our meetings.
Definitely.
Okay. Are there other Select Board remarks, comments? Fletcher, do you have anything?
No, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, moving on to approval of minutes of October 30th, 2024.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of October 30th, 2024.
For a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of October 30th, 2024. the first time I looked at things, so. Anybody? Anybody, Nate or Fletcher have any?
No.
We were all here that day, right? Looks like we were all here, okay. So can I, hearing none, can I hear, all in favor? Jeez, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to warrants to the treasurer.
Make a motion to approve and execute warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review.
A second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review. Karen?
Payroll warrant dated November 15th, 2024 in the amount of $25,214.27.
Are we doing accounts, are we doing payroll or?
Payroll.
Yeah, for the second.
Oh, I see.
Very confusing, huh?
Yes.
Keeping you on
Changing
your
stuff
toes.
up on me. Okay, I get it now. Anything we should know about?
No, there was 26 emergency responders on this warrant. They did have some activity, so yeah, they're all showing up too,
Okay.
which has been good.
That's good.
Yes.
That's what we need. Okay, anybody have any questions on payroll? Nate or Fletcher?
No.
Okay. Moving on to accounts payable.
Accounts payable dated 11/2 through 11/15/2024 in the amount of $112,511.76. So the bulk of this warrant is Camoin Associates, who's a consultant, doing the housing needs assessment study. CCI Managed Services, which is going to be a monthly charge for our IT services. KRT Appraisal also had an invoice for $11,500. That clears them up. They're done. They're paid in full at this
They're
point.
okay, okay.
Yes.
Were they contracted through BCA or was that additional?
No, this went through the special fund for
No, but
reappraisal.
when, in their contract, were they contracted through BCA? The BCA hearings, or were the BCA hearings additional cost?
No, the BCA hearings are in that
Okay, cool.
contract, so.
Good.
I don't know how many more. I know there's another one scheduled.
There's a, there's deliberations, and I don't think they're,
Okay.
they don't need to show up for that,
All
because
right.
the listers aren't involved in that.
Okay. Let's see what else. The power plan check was for the grader work, and there's some other smaller charges. Rescue is our monthly contract. Simon Operation Services, again, that's our monthly contract for water and sewer. Striker Sales, that is the life pack, cardiac monitor.
Okay.
It has arrived at the station, and I know EMS folks were getting it out of the box and getting it up and doing whatever they needed to with it. Wyndham County Sheriff's is also a monthly charge, and in here you have poll workers, election workers, I should restate that. And there are some overpayments with the homestead exemption. So
And
those,
those election workers being paid from a grant, right?
yes.
Yeah.
So they get paid out of the general fund, and then that revenue for the grant just offsets that.
Okay. Any bad tasting water refund? Who had the bad tasting water?
that was, we had a delivery of bottled water and the outside was gross and I was just like, call them back up and I want a different brand. I said, and we need to check the bottles before we accept them.
Yeah, okay. Well, glad nobody drank the bad tasting one. All right, does anybody have any questions on the warrants? Any questions from Nate or Fletcher?
No, thanks.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on to the town manager's report.
So quickly, let the town know that we were awarded the Better Roads Category A grant in the amount of $9,392 for the erosion control inventory. So that was quick. I will sit with Lenny and see if we can capitalize on more grants for road and bridge projects, because we do have several projects that may fall into this Better Roads grant program. Folks at the highway department are getting the trucks ready for winter, so, plows are getting ready, they're moving salt around, and they're preparing the trucks for winter plowing season. So, they'll slow down a little bit, but, there's still a lot of work to do. We can find it.
For sure.
I want to give a big shout out to our emergency responders here in Putney. On Sunday, November 3rd, 3 calls came in at the same time. 6 emergency vehicles rolled out of the station with max capacity on each vehicle. There was a fire call, an EMS call to Landmark College, and an accident on Interstate 91. So, a huge thank you and a shout out to these folks. And, payroll, like I mentioned, there are 26 people in the last 2 weeks on payroll.
That's great.
And this shows their dedication, and I really appreciate it very much. On Friday, November 8th, I stopped by the station while I was leaving town, and I was surprised when I saw about 20 pickup trucks in that parking lot, and they were all lined up, and I'm like, should I take a picture of this? And they were out, for quite a while. They were helping Brattleboro with that big brush fire.
Yeah.
And again today, they were back in Brattleboro for another brush fire.
Yeah.
So, and the trucks rolled out of the station again today. So I can't say enough about how thankful I am that people are coming when when there's a call. So I think it's great, and things are still happening, and I like what I'm seeing right now.
Great.
So we still have work to do. We'll always have work to do, but I'm just thankful and grateful that we have these folks. Putney was awarded the Municipal Energy Resilience Program grant.
Yay.
This is a big, huge kudos, and I'm not going to take all the credit, but we were awarded $402,500.
Yeah.
$500,000, and
Got most of it.
I was gonna have the select board review and approve this contract award tonight, but I need to back up a little bit and question Wyndham Regional Commission. And I spoke to Sue Coakley, who's been a big promoter and, a go-getter, and she did all the writing on this grant. And that was a lot of work, so thank you, Sue. And Lisa Papazian too has been part of this team. The 3 of us have just been like, we're going after the money.
It's real.
But
Get it if you don't ask for it.
that's right. And so we're gonna go back to Wyndham Regional. We wanna see the scoring of the applications and see where we fell short.
Oh, okay.
And we have until December 12th to sign the contract agreement. So I'm hoping maybe, there's another $97,500 that, like,
Around 4, good for you.
Are there enough chairs over there?
This is your
Sue, did you wanna add any more to what I just stated?
I'll just say that it is a very important and unusual opportunity for funding, and I'm glad that we got the 402,000. We'll see if there's some way to get the 500,000 we asked for, but grateful for the 402,000. That's really timely because we've engaged the architect, and that's really important because we have to spend this money in the time frame, to spend it by the end of December 2026. That seems like a long time from now, but all the planning that has to be done and the construction to be able to spend it well, it largely funds the heating system, and a lot of the work has to be done before we replace the whole HVAC system. So it's a part of a
Can you
Overall project.
Can you clarify for people who have not been following this, what this is about?
Right.
You haven't, just tell us what the grant's gonna be used for, what heating back system, what,
I know, I was just gonna explain that
Yeah.
too, but, do you wanna take that, Sue?
Sure. So the overall, we call it Renew Town Hall project, is historic renovation, ADA modification, accessibility, and overall renewal to make it work for us as a town as well as for the Putney Historical Society. And a number of upgrades are needed to this building. The envelope, we have grant to replace the windows and to have in a historic preservation manner, but also to have energy efficient aspects to them, so we will not lose as much heat and keep in air conditioning. We will also be, the MERP grant is Municipal Energy Resilience Program. It's ARPA money that the state made available to municipalities to do energy efficient and climate resilience improvement to their buildings. So that's insulation. It's the HVAC will be replacing our current boiler and putting in air conditioning as well as heating for both floors. It means that both floors of this building will now be useful. Well, upstairs will be the home for the Putney Historical Society. They have a lease with the town for that. The space will also be used for public gatherings and meetings. And that'll be great to have the town hall available downstairs and upstairs for meetings. And an elevator will be going in so that the upstairs is accessible. So the number of other improvements, lighting, switches, the whole electrical system needs an update. So it's a pretty big rehab that will make this building ready for us today and to make it accessible for virtually everybody in Putney for hearing, seeing, mobility, and it will reduce our energy costs and be much more comfortable and healthy.
Thank you, Sue.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, anymore.
I know, it's
Yeah.
long overdue.
That's a real
Lots of
success.
scaffolding.
Yeah. Continuing on, CCI Managed Services, who is our informational technology vendor, is working with us. New firewalls are up. The transition is moving along. I just received an estimate for the new server. The item is $10,058, and I intend to expense it under a line item in the general fund as a direct capital expense.
Okay.
It is needed. We're looking at cloud-based services as well, but for every person, every license, it adds up.
Yep, it does.
And so I really need to evaluate that. So we are gonna move ahead with the server.
Okay.
And I'll keep you posted as we transition.
Okay.
right now it's a little bumpy, but we're being patient. Budgets are coming along. I need to meet with the fire and rescue departments to review their budget and capital plan with them. And I'm fine tuning the general fund, the library, highway, sewer and water are all in draft status. Just to let the board know and folks. So I have received numbers for the Windham County Sheriff's Office, rescue, and I was informed yesterday that we will see an increase in the sewer contract, and it can be as high as 30%, which is, yeah, so that's a whoa, and it's a big whoa, and I'm like, but our system is aging. So they're spending more time, they're sending more people, instead of just one, it's sometimes two at a time. So I'm gonna be working, Sue and I are actually in conversation with somebody from the state to get some RFPs out, to get our asset management plan updated and start looking at, second well opportunities and actually looking at the asset management and trying to figure out how much money we might be able to get in grants or loans to do some updating and maintenance on our system before we have something that just is critical.
Right.
So there's a lot going on.
Okay.
But it's all good. As long as we keep moving forward and we keep finding the money pots, I think we're gonna be good. But that's all I have.
All right. Select board have any comments on the town manager's report? Nate or Fletcher?
No, I'm good.
Okay, is anybody online, have any comments or questions about the town manager's report? Anybody in the room? Okay, moving on to boards, committees, and commissions. And the first thing up is the Conservation Commission. Town-owned donated 50-acre parcel on Route 5, which is Ann and Company.
Yeah, we have been working with this piece of land since it was acquired way back. 2015 was the first full year that the town owned it. We facilitated a study by landmark college students under Andrew Stein. We're designated by the hazard mitigation plan to control invasive species, a ton of buckthorn on the property, and we have not been successful so far, but we have hope, and we have started now with a well-written invasive species management plan from a botanist who works with Silvio Conte Wildlife Refuge. So we like this piece of land very much. We're familiar with it, and we'd like to introduce it to the board by starting with just saying location, location, location in regard to other things that are going on in the world of ecology. And we're going to do this presentation with Willow, our newest Conservation Commission member who's online, and she will need to have the screen shared so she can show you some maps as we go along, because this is just mainly a map presentation about where this land is located and why that location is important.
Okay.
And Ellen basically took some photos so that you'd have.
Aren't they fabulous?
It doesn't show any of the big trees, but it is a young forest, but it's a very healthy
Hold
forest.
on.
And could you introduce us to your committee members that are
Oh,
here?
I'm sorry. I'm Ann Carey to start with. This is Ellen Holmes on the Conservation Commission, Gino Palmieri on the Conservation Commission, Catherine Carmen also on the Conservation Commission, and Shauna Frank was a long time, very active member who's showed up again for this.
And
And
well,
Willow.
Oh, Willow, of
Yes.
course. I'm sorry, I'm just not an online person.
thank
As
you.
everyone well knows at this point. So this is just a few shots of the donated land, and this is land we'd like to see conserved, so we're just sort of indicating why we came to that conclusion. This was its best use. Next. This starts with a very wide-ranging study at the Agency of Natural Resources, Fish and Wildlife Department, and numerous conservation groups in Vermont and also in adjacent states, going all the way into Canada, to try to map habitat that is essential for wildlife. And it has to be connected habitat so they can move through this habitat, anticipating or in the midst of this movement also of animals to different areas that are better for it due to climate change. So you can see that Putney is right here, where the arrow is, and within this connected set of habitats, Putney has a special role because on the other side, which is not shown in this map, over in New Hampshire, Cass Hill, there's a number of forested areas over there. And Fish and Wildlife believes this is the southeastern Vermont point for wildlife to cross the Connecticut River, for there to be a connection between New Hampshire and all of their network of habitat and the Vermont habitat. 30 miles north, there's another little spot here, Mount Ascutney. So we're between, those are the two on the southern part of Vermont for that New Hampshire connection. Next. And this is zooming into Putney for our habitat blocks. These are also called forest blocks. They have a number of characteristics which make them important, but they're basically rated by size, which is pretty straightforward. To be highest priority in this lineup, it has to have more than 5,000 acres. To be priority, 500 to 5,000 acres. And we all know where these are because we live here, but we got on the map. This is the Western Ridge Line.
The red one.
The red one
We
and
can't see
the
what
dark
you're pointing
orange
at.
one right underneath.
Yeah.
You- I'm pointing, but you all can't see.
Okay.
I know, but
They
so I come
can
over
see,
there.
they can see.
Oh, you know
The
where
other
it is.
screen, so
Stand
It's-
at the
it's-
screen.
that the select board can see.
The other screen, there's
Just
another
go
screen.
around.
Just
Do
point
you want me
to
to do it on this side?
Sure, because we've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know all, you know all of this too. So these have always been identified in our town plans as important areas. The ridgeline habitat block. Over here in the dark orange, Bear Hill is highest priority because it connects up to Rocky Ridge. And that makes it more than 5,000 acres. Within Putney, we have the East Putney Forest between Route 5 and I-91. And you'll see where I've marked it with an arrow called, and it says here. And next to that is a name, which I hope I pronounced correctly, Iorali, which is the Abenaki word for here. Because we're trying to also look at starting to think about this land as Abenaki land and sort of bring in some words from that culture. And the other name that we were thinking of for this piece might be related to bears, since there are bears there, and since it's right southeast of Bear Hill, and that's Owasis is that word. So be that as it may, you can see that this area here is part of this across the river connection. Animals have a hard time right near the river, but they do get along through there, mainly following East Putney Brook, the riparian area, but we can see that better on another map. So basically, those are 3 big time important habitat blocks, and the little ones also have great value. And we don't want to ignore them, but for now, that's what we're going to focus on next. And you see the town land right in that East Putney Forest habitat block. Okay, Willow, next. So this is just to orient you a little bit. You can see the donated land, and I want to briefly point out that it's comprised of this dark area on your right, which is
You want a pointer?
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, you're sort of in the line of fire here.
I know, I'm like, I feel like I'm
This,
being like.
this area right here is a rocky ridge line with a lot of hemlocks. And the donated land picks up a part of that. Over to the west, on the other side, Route 5 side, is a really lovely, what we call the Western Hill. It's a soft rise. It's got silty loam soil, whereas the hemlock ridgeline is glacial till, you know, the usual. And so right in the middle is a saddle, a sort of valley area. And what is happening is water is coming down off the hill, I think principally, probably also off of the hemlock forest and through the groundwater, and then it hits bedrock in the saddle and creates seeps. And those seeps have created two streams. You know this better than I. You know the land better than I do. Two streams and a nice little wetland, a little seep wetland. So it's really a nice little piece of land, and I think that those kind of, like the wetlands and the streams and possibly the West Hill may be helping recharge bedrock aquifers. But I am not an expert, that's just a thought. So I think, and the other thing is just to note that there is sort of amenable people living to the south or Landmark College Forest. These are people who love the forest and are maintaining their own forest. Earthbridge actually is in current use, which makes it somewhat protected. Everything else in the East Putney forest block is unprotected. And we also want to note that Putney owns the conservation site Bear Hill, which is marked, which is fairly close to the donated land. Okay, we'll go on next. And this is another, this is the East Putney Forest, again with the donated land marked. And this sort of gives you a sense. These are like rivers coming down from New Hampshire to the Connecticut River. Here's East Putney Brook up here. And these are sort of how the animals move getting into the East Putney Forest area. And this is the best place where I can show you crossings. So once they get there, they got Route 5, which is the red line to get across. And we'll take both we'll have a map in a second, but it's easier to look here. The state program and our tracking program have identified this as the highest priority wildlife crossing for Route 5. But this little section from the East Putney Forest, right where the donated land is, that little blue piece, they call that a highest priority riparian connection. And we've tracked that, and indeed it's a priority wildlife crossing in the parlance. And so that means, and the interesting thing about that particular wildlife crossing where the donated land is that it's a wide variety of animals. Sometimes you just get foxes, back and forth. And this is bobcats, fishers, mink, because of the stream. What else? Just about everything, coyotes. And so we've got a lot of different kinds of animals crossing there. So this is one of the ways, right from the donated land on across up into Bear Hill, as animals start to make their way into this whole system throughout Vermont. Okay, next. And this is just this is the map that the state did, the most recent one on wildlife road crossings, and we've marked the donated land again. And they have it donated on this most recent map as a possible wildlife road crossing, which is white. That's not a high rating in there in that particular algorithm. But over here again, we see this area that they have designated highest priority riparian connectivity. And that's because the stream that goes to the north that arises on the donated land crosses at East Town Farm Road comes down along the road and then crosses back. And the culvert is right here. And you can see that they're moving into this area. And the culverts are used, I mean, if they're in good shape, which one of them is not, but when culverts are in good shape, the fishers, the bobcats, they'll go through them.
That's smart.
Yeah, and not to get run over is a good idea. So we just wanted to point out that important road crossing. There's not a ton across Route 5. There's maybe 3 priority, this is one of them, and then the highest priority. And this is the only one where the town would have any input on what would happen. Next. So that was all state things important to the state. And the state gathers all this information, but they don't tell towns what to do with it. So basically, the town itself went through a as we know, very inclusive, long, and great process, again, run by the Planning Commission and Sue Coakley, and came up with areas of forest that the town wanted to protect. And those are in green, the hatch marked green, and you can see that they went with the state information, took the western ridge line, those 2 highest priority forest blocks that we started off with, that were dark red or brown, and then dark orange, Bear Hill, and also they added on the largest priority forest block we had, which was East Putney Forest. And again, the donated land, I keep wanting to call it losses. The donated land is within the East Putney Forest, as we already noted. So it's been designated by the town as a place where we want to see forest, not other uses. Now, the Planning Commission is working on zoning that'll try to prevent further fragmentation of these forest blocks. This doesn't mean no development. It means development in these areas should be respectful of the environment and not break up the interior forest or block some of these crossings that we know exist. So that's the town plan. Next. And then this is sort of how other conservation groups look at the situation. And the pink areas are, this is the Vermont Land Trust map of conserved land.
Okay.
And they put, all the pink areas are supposed to be town-owned. And I think they sort of hope that all of them will be, left, as wildlife habitat. And of course, Forest for Learning is mistakenly marked as town-owned, but this is just to give you the sense that there's a cluster of conserved or potentially conserved, or at least groups that might very well likely keep them as forest in there. And the little green patch is the Mulcahy Trust, which is the other half of the Sand Hill Road wetland. And so that wraps it up. We looked at what the state thinks is important, what the town has put in its town plan for protection, and what other conservation groups are hoping to see. I'd say hoping to see. They just put them on there because they sort of think of them in this possible area. And we also would like to see that land stay as forest, as these other groups have hoped they would be as well. And we have a lot more information if you ever wanted about the site itself, like it's been evaluated for timber, things like that. And we can bring that to you if you're interested. We just want to have on the table that this is our position on this piece of land, and we really do think it's important.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you. Does Select Board have any comments? Fletcher?
That was a great presentation.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you. Everybody worked on this, not just me.
Yes.
Thank you, Willow.
Yeah, thank you, Will. So I just have a question about other pieces of land in town. Are they conserved formally or?
Actually, I believe this each piece of land was acquired in a different way and went through a different process.
Mhm.
So each one is individual. I would say people would have to sue the town. Basically, if we decided to do something else with a couple of them, they might have a basis for that. That's sort of a bizarre way of putting it. But
You mean like we voted for like
the select
town
board
meetings
can
at
do
some
with
point?
town-owned land
Yeah, yeah.
whatever it wants to do.
There's nothing in the deeds.
Legally,
is what you're
I mean, you would
saying.
have to check with your lawyer to check that out. But I think legally the select board has the right to do with town land what it wants. But there's certain restrictions that have been put on certain pieces. Bear Hill is protected by an Act 250.
Right.
The Beatrice Aiken is, has in the deed the hope of the donor that it will be kept in memory of his wife, his late wife, Beatrice Aiken. And that's from Governor George Aiken, so Putney's probably not gonna do anything about that. But these are all, the Wilson Wetland is another one that has some protection because the town made representations to donors about what that land would be used for. And over $17,000 was donated by just local people here and businesses. And they have a right to have that land kept for the purposes they donated for. And then the rest of them, this one has no such history, and the select board has never decided what to do with it. It's because it was acquired very rapidly, and then there's just been a process of gathering information since then.
Okay. If the select board were to consider conserving it, probably should go to town meeting, right?
I would think you'd want a public process
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
Well, there's been outreach, but not a ton. So
Okay.
that's why I would leave it.
Okay. Thank you.
Unless there are other questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions, the select board?
No more the process piece, like what, what's our understanding of what the process,
If we were to go forward?
if we were to go forward? First, we would have to decide that we wanted to go forward.
I think the select board would have to go to decide that we would want to, in theory, conserve it. Or
Or at least
engage,
engage in a process. of
right,
discernment.
it put a warrant on the town meeting, to say, does the town want to conserve this piece of land or not? Full disclosure, that piece of land is the piece of land that, some people call Lot 0. So there has been discussion of putting housing there. So it sounds like it should go, to a town vote.
Right.
And then beyond that, I don't know what the process is, but, in general, land conservationists like to see things in writing.
Right.
So either as a conservation easement or, something in the deed that restricts development or, specific activities from happening on a piece of land in perpetuity. So, and it sounds like a lot of the pieces of land that we have kind of have some protection, but if it were me, I would want to codify all of that myself. So I guess if the town decided to go forward with that route, I would like to see like a committee being convened to work on deed restrictions or some kind of way of conserving land. And it may, come down to seeing how other towns have done that, because a lot of towns do have town land that is not developable. Also, most of the time when people give land to towns, it's because it's not worth it to them, right? They've tried to sell it, it's not buildable. It's a tax write-off for them, and it's, a piece of land that wasn't useful to them, so.
I would like to say that, in fact, I did that. I believe, Eric, you'll correct me on this, that the top of the hill was cleared for a potential housing site. There are 2 pits that look like,
I don't know about that.
yeah, but it definitely was cleared, and the buckthorn, and it came up in white pine and buckthorn, basically.
It was logged at some point, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Mhm.
can see it being long.
In
And,
the
um,
80s,
right,
early 80s
right.
is what I read.
But I just want to point out that that is the western side of that hill that goes down to Route 5.
Mhm.
That's clearly deer wintering. And if there were a house or whatever on that hill, as someone might have thought of back in the day, I doubt you would have that active wildlife crossing of Route 5.
Mhm.
Because it would just wouldn't work. And there is a number of housing units in the area. It's not as if this area is without housing, and more is being renovated for occupancy.
Okay.
Just to throw a comment out there, so the housing needs assessment study will be done by January.
Okay.
So, and there's conversation about that piece in the study as well, so.
Okay. Was it that piece? I thought there was a piece behind Sand Hill.
There's more than one piece,
Yeah, there's
yes.
a piece on West Hill,
Yeah.
West Street
West Street, yeah.
that's got access to water and sewer, and then there was a partial next to Sand Hill.
Yeah, and the 50 acres as well, but we'll see what happens.
So, any idea whether in that housing process, we're gonna find out what the viability of that
Now,
is in terms of development? You know, like, is it even an option?
they won't do that, you'd have to have, somebody go out and perk and do all that stuff, but, I mean, we're going through the zoning as well, so with all these habitat blocks that we're looking at, the zoning may dictate anyway,
Right.
if there's an overlay that
Wait, can you
protects.
say that again? The zoning may what?
It may protect that area anyway,
Uh-huh.
for wildlife and connectivity for wildlife,
Exactly.
Yeah.
so.
The zoning modernization group, which is also working, is going to come up with new zoning on not to fragment the blocks that were selected on the town plan
Right.
Yeah.
to be protected.
I think the question is whether, we want to decide for future generations whether that land will be developed or not, or whether we want to leave their options open. I think that's what it comes down to.
Mhm.
Because I personally don't see that piece of land as being viable for building anything large scale. Because it's not next to any infrastructure. So
That's not to say you can't get it there, so.
you can absolutely, but
Yeah.
it's not gonna happen within
Yeah.
the next 10 years, and by then we'll have another town plan, so, I don't see it happening right now. Don't know if we want to tie people's hands, that's all I'm saying,
Right.
but,
Karen, are you suggesting a different time frame for waiting for instance, for the zoning update?
So the zoning bylaw modernization won't be completed until December 2025. So even if we allow that process to happen and parcels are protected under a certain overlay, you could always go to March meeting in 26, right? If you wanted to put a conservation easement on it. But definitely,
or we can get a feel for the town on whether they want to do it or not
Right.
at this meeting.
right,
And we'd also be
Not
glad,
necessarily binding.
excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I interrupted you. I was just gonna say, we'd be willing to go ahead and put together a management plan if you want, which is always part of the other conserved areas in Putney. There's a management plan that the Conservation Commission puts together.
Yeah.
We could suggest one, I mean, you could say no.
I guess I'm a little confused about the role of the select board in this, whether or not it's something that goes through us.
We have
or-
the authority to dispose of land however we want to, or do whatever we want to.
But
Land.
couldn't it be warned on the town meeting without us?
Somebody could do a petition for it, yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I'm not certain that type of, warrant would be binding on the select board. It would be advisory.
Okay,
This is
so
what the
it's-
town wants to do.
Right,
But we
right.
don't necessarily have to do it.
Right, okay, so it's not just that,
I'm not certain about that, but I don't think they can direct us to do things that we have the authority to do.
It can be a non-binding article just
Right.
to get a consensus too in March, right?
Right.
We follow through with the process of the zoning, which is very important for people to like be active in this process.
Mhm.
Because when that, when those bylaws are finalized and they're adopted by the select board, if you're not paying attention to the process and being engaged in the process, whatever happens at the end, we're gonna have those zoning bylaws.
Yeah.
So,
I'd just like to say in terms of the saddle and the wet area, it's recommended to have a 100-foot buffer around that. And if the water for the seeps is coming down from the West Hill, probably mainly from there, simply because thin glacial till on the Rocky Hemlock Ridge is going to generate some groundwater down to the seeps, but not a lot. But if that entire top of the hill or the entire hill were developed, not only would you lose the wildlife road crossing, you would lose the seep and the wetlands. And that impacts the bedrock aquifer.
Right, sure.
So,
Um,
just FYI.
Yeah.
I could go on, but
Right, I mean, all development will disturb land in some way.
Yes,
absolutely.
That's the trade-off we have here, not just here, everywhere.
yeah.
Um,
And putting parking, is also a paving problem. So, whatever.
Totally get it.
Okay, I'm sure you do.
it's protected right now, so. Because there's no development on it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly, and it's
Yeah.
functioning pretty well.
Right. Except for the invasives, which we're gonna get a handle on, right?
Oh, God.
All right.
We're working on it.
Thank you for the presentation.
Sure, we're very pleased to have
Don't walk
Susan.
off with my pen, please. Thank you.
Your pointer, I'm
That was
sorry.
not
I do
the pointer.
that.
It's not a good.
Are there other comments on the select board about this? Are there comments online about the Conservation Commission's presentation?
I just have one question for the Conservation Commission. Are you fully staffed on your commission right now, and do you need help?
You need two more?
We have, we have positions open if people are interested in this. And I think we'll go ahead and continue to work. Ellen's been very active in getting Rich Holsledge up to walk the land with us. The idea being that if you name a property, you have to let the land show you, its characteristics and what you might want to emphasize in that name. And we just left it open if anyone on the select board wants to participate or visit the land or whatever and help us in that process. We'd be delighted.
Okay,
Ellen's responsible.
Thank you all for
thank you.
doing what you do.
thank you.
And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the Putney Fire and Rescue Committee. It's got your name on it, okay?
Yeah, the main thing I just want to say there is that we are heading towards a community meeting on December 9th, 5:30. We haven't checked whether the fire station's available or not, that's the hope.
Would
And
be a good place for that meeting.
yes, and the goal is for it to be a chance for the task force, is that what we're called? Advisory meeting.
Yes.
Task force,
Yes.
yes, the task force to
Yes.
report to the community on what we've done thus far and where we're at with the process, and we hope to, we're getting close to wrapping up a report and sending it to us, sending it to the select board, so. It's a chance for the community to kind of hear where we're at
Yeah.
and give their thoughts on it.
Feedback too.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any comments on the select board about that report? Any comments online? Excuse me, any comments in the room? All right, moving on to select board new business, request for increase in allocation sewer and water childcare center.
So this is for Putney Place down at the landmark building of Putney Inn. So they are coming to the board, and I have to just let you know that Katie has a medical emergency this week, so she can't be here. I did not reach out to the engineer, but this is pretty straightforward. So they have added the teen center in the teen program
Okay.
with, a number of allocated, people and staff, so they're asking for an increase.
Okay.
The total increase is, increase of 480 gallons per day, which equates to about 2 ERUs in water and sewer world.
Remind me what ERU stands for?
Equivalent residential unit, which this is a commercial space, so it doesn't fit, but we're gonna roll with that peg. So with the water increase, it also impacts the sewer increase, okay? So the only building with water is the Putney Place, the childcare center, with the little cafe in there, and now the teen center. The rest of that property is all on sewer. So,
But not water. They have a well, they have a private well for the
right,
hotel.
yeah, so only the Putney Inn building is on water,
Okay, gotcha.
and the rest, but every single building is on municipal sewer.
Got it.
So there's gonna be an increase with the sewer as well. So we are requesting an increase in allocation of 480 gallons per day, for a total of 3,080 gallons per day for the childcare center. This may be the last time they come, unless they plan on doing like
Swimming pool or something.
weddings and
Water
events
park.
and, water park would not be cool. No pun intended.
Great.
It's like, no, I don't think we can handle that on our system.
Okay, so, where's the increase on the sewer? Or there, it's input out, input in, input out?
Yeah,
Okay.
so 480 gallons per day, increase in allocation.
Okay, for a total of 3,080, is that what you said?
Yep, 3,080 gallons per day for water.
Does the select board have any concerns or questions about this?
I just wanna know if Karen has any concerns or questions.
I don't right now. I'm gonna have to evaluate some numbers, cause it seems like, they're creeping up. I'm not nervous yet, but, I'm gonna be going into a process anyway. We're gonna be looking at all of that within the next year.
So what makes you nervous? Like,
Well-
what is it that we should be nervous about?
Well, what makes me nervous a little bit is, so about 5 years ago, I had a conversation with our contractor for water and sewer, and at that point, he's like, 80 residential units is, a safe number. But if we get,
Any additional?
if we go over, we're gonna have to look at something different.
Okay.
I can tell you the draft housing needs assessment study right now, the magic number is 80
Huh.
for, housing
That's
units. And the contractor also told me 4 years ago that we should save those 80 units for residential.
Mm-hmm.
So if we had a business that wanted to come in here, like a brewery, I'd have to consult with our contractor
Yeah,
and really evaluate it.
Are there
Yeah.
calculations being done, given the decreasing number of people in the households in Putney? Do you know what I mean? Like, so this unit, this equivalent residential unit, does that just stay standard?
it's an average, right, yeah.
I'm just curious because it seems like the number of people in each household is decreasing over time. So I
Yeah,
would think
I
that
agree
that
with
might
that.
impact the
The flow,
flow.
yes. So,
Yeah, plus the kids that are at the childcare are not at home. So theoretically, a lot of them would be using the facilities at home. Some of them aren't on the system, but
yeah,
The majority of them, I bet, wouldn't be on the
Right. yeah, they're probably not on the system.
Yeah.
They may not
They'd
even
have
live in Putney.
Village.
Right. So you're right. But what the state went and did too, they changed the rule. So it used to be based on how many bedrooms, how many people,
right.
how many bathrooms, kitchen, how many fixtures. Now they go by unit.
Yes,
So,
yes.
and a
So if you
unit
have
is,
an extra
yeah, and
kitchen
a
in your
unit,
house.
right, and a unit is 210 gallons
Yeah.
normally for a single family residential dwelling.
Right. So it's probably overestimated a little bit.
When I first started getting my head into the numbers,
Yeah.
I was looking at them like, oh, why is this on here, But if they have a reservation, right,
Right.
for 20 units, and we have to take that into consideration
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm. Anybody who's already has a reservation, theoretically, yeah, they can
Right.
connect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially if they've been paying for it right along.
Okay.
So
So how many of those reservations do we have?
I can't tell you. I don't think there's many. I want to say like maybe 14, but don't quote me on
Out of
that.
the 80?
No. Well, out of the 80,
Out of
yes.
the potential
Yes.
80?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any better use for the water than for a childcare facility. I mean,
right,
it's just,
Yep. No.
such a high priority.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not concerned about this increase. I'm not, because their original wastewater permit, when it was a restaurant, was a lot higher, and they're not even there yet.
Yeah.
So that I take into consideration too. But it's the future,
Yeah.
it's the housing study, it's,
I mean, to some extent, it's probably a good problem to have because we're building back up.
right,
And that's a good thing. And the infrastructure obviously has to
be maintained.
has to keep up with that.
And you gotta keep putting money into it to keep
Yeah.
it going, right? So we'll see, after this housing study, and once we get into the process with the state looking at the wastewater treatment plant and the water source, I'll have a better idea and a better
Right.
sense. And, there might be some retrofits that we can do that will get us more water. The other thing too is, because I'm talking right now, I'm just not gonna say this.
Yes, you are. That's good.
There's so many pieces, right? And like my head's always like spinning and thinking, but I had a vendor come and he said, he looked at our meter downstairs and it's old, right? It was probably one of the first ones that was put down there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you're losing water through that. I'm like, how do you know that? He goes, I can tell just from the age of the meter. So if we updated our meters, we'd probably get more flow out of our system. So,
Yeah.
but that's another conversation down the road.
Okay.
Right, and
So-
I mean, just because our housing study says we, aspire to have 80 new units, doesn't mean we're gonna have 80 new units.
Right.
No.
And they're not necessarily all going to be on town water. either.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I think we're good
Okay.
for right now, but in a year,
keep our eye on
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eye on it.
Okay. Okay, so with that in mind, are there any other questions or concerns that the select board has? Okay, then hearing on, I'd like to hear a motion to approve the increase in allocation for, what are we calling this? Putney Place to 3,080 gallons of water and sewer a day.
So moved.
Secondly.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to increase the allocation for the Putney Place for water and sewer to 3,080 gallons per day. Any other comments on the board? Any comments in the room? Any comments online? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any? Good, any opposed? All right, good.
Thank
So
you.
that has been done. We can have a teen center too, that's awesome.
Yes,
I see Josh is on, so,
yeah.
so you're good to go. Okay, moving on to the mowing proposed bid for town properties and cemeteries.
So it is my recommendation to the board, this is the only bid that we received for town property mowing
Okay,
and for the cemeteries. I recommend that the board not accept the bid and we put it back out in the spring.
You don't wanna pay an extra 100,000?
No, thank you.
okay,
So I didn't ask questions of this company. They are based out of Springfield,
Springfield, Mass.
Massachusetts, yes.
That seems
So,
like awful. We got to mow our lawns.
You know, the fact that we
Look at
only,
what they're charging.
It's mostly grass.
you know, the fact that we only received one bid,
Yeah.
I think we need to put it back
And we
out.
don't need to mow anything right now, so we're good, right?
No, I'm probably gonna do it out in the spring if you allow me to do that. To put it out to
I'm fine with
bid.
that. When does our current contract end?
It's calendar year, so it ends in January, but, on
So we just wanna put it out
Early.
so that we can
early.
get somebody to mow our lawns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That seems a little
I
high.
think maybe that's my retirement business.
Right?
Eric, you teach me how to
I
ride
think
one
I'd
of
be
those.
retired if I was.
But honestly, if you look at that,
Yeah,
we could hire somebody or two people, probably.
on a
just
per
to,
day basis,
right,
yeah.
we'd have to
sure.
buy the equipment, but right now I'm not,
Oh, you mean like maybe have the highway department do it?
no. Like a Parks and Rec department
Oh.
do it,
Okay, mhm,
like Brattleboro does it.
yeah.
Highway has their hands full. So if I can just get a motion that you're gonna reject this.
Oh, okay. Can I hear a motion to reject the mowing bid for the town properties and some cemeteries?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to reject the mowing proposed bid for town properties and cemeteries. Further discussion on the board? Nate or Fletcher?
Nothing, thanks.
Any comments online? Any comments in the room? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, next is authorizing the treasurer to sign payroll and payable checks in an emergency situation. So this came about because we were thinking of not having a meeting on the week of Christmas, right?
Correct.
So how does this work? So basically we would authorize the treasurer to sign the warrants and then the following meeting, after
No.
the fact, we would approve them, or we're just saying,
So
good?
the treasurer will sign the checks.
Sign the checks, that's what I meant,
Yeah,
sorry, yes.
For accounts payable.
Yeah,
And any payroll checks.
yeah, And then
And
the
will
warrant.
deposit and the warrant will come to you the next
the next
meeting.
meeting,
Yeah.
okay,
So I'm very critical and, I look at everything when it comes to payroll and accounts payable. And so if there's anything in question, and it may be just a really small warrant, I hold back. We just do payroll, and anything that's dated, time sensitive.
Sure.
But other than that,
If something controversial comes up, you would,
yeah,
okay.
no, I wouldn't. I'll just hold it, and we can just.
Okay.
I want full transparency.
Yeah. I know going from, Brattleboro does it, and I think each select board member rotates.
And comes in.
And comes in and reviews the warrants and then signs off on them.
Yeah.
So then the full board doesn't have to convene for that purpose.
Yeah.
So we might wanna.
That might be an
consider that.
option too, Eileen,
Yeah.
if you had one or two
Yeah,
or one.
or even just authorize, I think we're allowed to authorize one person to
Mm-hmm.
authorize the warrants, approve the warrants, so it's just a thought, so that we don't have to get caught in, we have to be on Wednesdays of
Right.
payroll day, otherwise things go awry.
Yeah.
But for now, we can just go this route and we can discuss that at length later, maybe on the first. Oh, that's not gonna work either. We didn't talk about January 1st.
No, we did not.
Wait, not January 1st. No, I'm sorry, it'll be January 8th. Never mind, we're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is something else on the first. Oh, no, it's just a holiday, I think. But anyway.
All right. Okay. Unless we're thinking we're meeting that week for whatever reason. Good.
Yeah,
I don't mind having 4 weeks off, whatever.
yeah.
That's okay.
Right, so we get a whole
We get
Right,
yes.
a whole month.
break.
Yeah. We can go on vacation.
Yeah.
I'm actually considering that.
No, you have to say keep everything together.
You just signed the payroll checks. All right. Can I hear, is there any discussion? Fletcher, Nate, do you have any concerns about that?
No.
Okay.
No, thank you.
All right, so can I hear a motion to authorize the treasurer to sign payroll and payables checks in an emergency situation?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to authorize the treasurer to sign payroll and payable checks in an emergency situation. Is there further discussion among the board? Any comment online? Any comment in the room? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So we've done that too. We can have Christmas off. Okay. Select board old business. I have not done anything on this, so I think we should table that. I do intend to come back to it for real. But we are still in BCA stuff. I'm catching up on other things. So anyway, so the next is select board reports. Cannabis control board process and procedure. Nate.
Sorry, nothing new on that one.
Okay. Recreation department working group. That's also got you.
Yeah, we had a meeting last Thursday. A little bit limited crew showed up for that one, but I think we had a lot of great discussions. We have somebody who's showing up that has, I think, around 20 years of experience with Parks and Rec. So I think now we're on the right track, but we're chugging along.
Yeah.
Have another one coming up on the 21st of this month.
Great.
At 4:30.
Perfect. Okay. The next two, I think we said we were going to discuss at a working session. So you're off the hook, Fletcher. Solar Advisory Committee and the 1% local tax option.
I haven't got anywhere on solar advisory. I looked over some stuff from VLCT on the local tax option and how they explain the statutory provision, and I'm more confused now than I was before.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'm going to spend some more time with that and maybe call up their attorney and ask them what it means.
Okay.
I still, as has been pointed out, after the state takes their cut, this isn't a big ticket item.
That's true, but it's something.
Yeah, it's all parts of it, but it's depressing that the state has to nick us on the way through.
Yeah. Um, that's a good segue to something I've been meaning to mention, which is that I had promised you guys that I was going to draft a letter to send to our legislators, and I did start that letter, and that's one of them. That's one of the issues. It's in very, 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 very draft form, so it's not ready for prime time, but I do plan on bringing it back to us soon. We've got time because they don't convene until January, although it'd be nice to get something in front of them before they hit the ground running. I think they do have some input from the general public that things need to change, but it'd be nice to direct them if we can. So anyway, I do have that as one of the issues. Alternative Transportation Advisory Committee have done nothing. Highway Access Policy,
Nothing.
Event Ordinance.
Pass.
Just want to get out of here for 7.
Ooh, look at that. Okay, so the next is public comment on items not on the agenda. Is there any comments on the agenda? Okay, thank you for letting us get
But
out
we
of
need an executive session.
No. Are there any comments online? On public comments not on the agenda? Okay, does the select board have any other comments? Okay, moving on to, do we need an executive session?
No.
No. Does anybody else feel the need for an executive session? Okay, no executive session. Our next meeting date is November 26, 2024. That's a Tuesday because we didn't want to meet the night before Thanksgiving. So it's a special meeting. It's at 5:30 on Zoom at the town hall, but it will be a Tuesday, not a Wednesday. And can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion, so moved.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Wow.
Good job.